Wilson Miles from Black Film TV. The thing I like about this show that if it takes off, you're gonna get other producers wanting to do the same thing, like Game of Thrones and Sons of Anarchy.
Right.
Those who have died. What if we imagine if they didn't die?
There you go. What if Jax hadn't ran into that truck?
You see, you see where I'm going. You
I
see
see
where
where
I'm
you're
going.
going. I like it.
So, Nick, where did you get the call that this is coming back and you'll be front and center?
August 11, 2022. I was in France. I was completely in a different world, different continent, different time zone, and I get a text from Steven saying that he want to share something with me. I picked up the phone and I was thinking something aligned, brother, something aligned. I'm like, I wonder if he wants to talk about the House of Ashur. And then he answered the phone. I mean, I answered the phone and he was like, what are you doing for the next 5 to 6 years? I'm like, I'm available. And then he introduced the idea, and which is it's beyond my anything I would have imagined, and the way he, Stephen imagined that world and the what if scenario and what's the ins and outs of it. It was just too delicious, just too delicious. I mean, I'm a big fan of Stephen. I mean, pretty much I would work with him on anything, but this world in particular was quite amazing, and just the drama, the complexity of it. It's just so, as an actor, I couldn't have asked for a better role. So I'm just blessed.
Steven, this is the train that doesn't stop. It keeps running. It may have a pit stop here and there with a new title, but it keeps going. What led you to come on board and come up with this what if scenario?
Yeah, Lionsgate and Stars had been reaching out for about a decade, saying, you want to do some more Spartacus? Any Spartacus ideas? I was always tied up on something else or still recovering from making the first show. So the last time they reached out to me, I said, yeah, you know what? I've got some space in my schedule. It's been long enough. I always loved the original show. So I was kicking around, the usual ideas, Caesar, the triumvirate, Antony and Cleopatra. But I kept coming back to what I loved about the original 2 seasons of the show, the Blood and Sand and Gods of the Arena, the upstairs, downstairs drama and the political intrigue within the city and maneuvering with the Romans. And I thought, man, I would really like to do that again. And at the end of the 3rd season, Vengeance, Ashur has a line that this is the rise of the House of Ashur before he gets his head cut off. And I always thought that would be a hell of a fun show to do. So I pitched this crazy out of the box what if concept. What if Ashur hadn't been killed? How would that change history? And honestly, I thought they would say no, but they said, great, let's do it. So that's when I called Nick to see if he was available.
Hey, and so for fans who are either seeing all of the shows or for people who are coming into the show, are there Easter eggs pertaining to the previous shows? And what are you bringing into for the new fans that doesn't seem like a repetitive of the previous shows?
Yeah, many Easter eggs
Yeah.
that the original fans will pick up. But for new fans and for the old fans too, we wanted that Spartacus feel, but to bring in new elements.
Yeah.
And one of the biggest elements was the female gladiator, the gladiatrix, which we always wanted to do on the original show, but historically it came like 80 years later.
Yeah.
So it didn't quite fit. But now Ashur's alive, changing history. That's the first domino that he changes. His back's up against the wall. He needs a gimmick. So he figures, let's throw a woman in the arena and see what happens. So there's a lot of new relationships, new characters. You meet the wife of Julius Caesar, who at this time period is actually richer and more powerful than he is.
Yeah.
And she just puts the screws to Ashur something fierce.
Yeah, and it's also the consequences of everything that Ashur does. Well, especially introducing a female gladiatrix into the arena, the ripple effect that has, and the consequences, and what he's facing in, and then all the other characters that we're introducing as well, some of the Romans, some of the gladiator side, and just the deliciousness of going back to the ludus, that house, the upstairs, downstairs. That's always been the jewel of Spartacus, in my opinion.
Hey, if you can make this work. Hey, Dallas made it work with Bobby. The what if scenario. So keep it going. Congrats on coming back. We're looking forward to seeing more blood and mayhem.
Yes.
We'll talk season 2.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate it. Thank you for your time. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Wilson Miles from Black Film TV. Hello, how's it going?
It's good, Wilson. Where you are is cold.
Uh, I had a logo on my shirt, trying to put a jacket to hide the logo because it's not looking good. You
Okay,
know,
okay, okay, okay. I get it. Okay, do your thing.
this is when they tell you it's like you know how some logos get blurred out.
Right, right.
I'm not that technical to do that, so we're like put on a jacket.
Yeah.
So here we are. Obviously, we got a new series. You know, you're playing this badass Spartacus woman. You know what they did saying yes to taking on this role.
Yes, because she's the first time that a female gladiatrix has been seen in the world of Spartacus. But she also is the first Black female gladiatrix to be seen on scripted television. So, yes, yes, and yes were my only answers when I had the opportunity to do this audition. Playing a woman who's strong, fierce, powerful, just like, some of our archetypes from, past, the amazing Lucy Lawless, having the ability to be able to empower that kind of strength in a character and create a role model for somebody
Mhm.
out there who looks like me, that's important. That's something that I was on board for.
Now, how much did you prepare for it physically? You know, obviously, not everybody can do what you're doing on screen.
Life prepared me for it. When I was growing up, my dad had me fighting in the dirt with boys all the time. Basically, I have a taekwondo background, so martial arts were a big part of my life. I achieved my second degree black belt from fighting with men who were all better than I was. Always frustrating as hell because they just were amazing. And I feel like that was preparation for this character in this role because that same frustration that I felt back then and had to work through to become better and earn my belt is the same thing that I had to do to earn my brand in Spartacus House of Ashur.
Now, do you take stock in terms of the women of that era to see if there was any woman of color or not during that time period?
African people did actually exist in ancient Roman society. I had to do research to find this out because I wanted to understand Kush society, Nubian society, what all
Hmm.
of these things meant. And it was very interesting to find out that African people were merchants. African people, had land, they were a part of the society. Their story just was not told. So they
Hmm.
existed. And I felt very privileged to have the lens focused on this particular character type and have that story brought to light to represent all African people that were a part of that society. But it's not just African people, it's little people were a part of that society. So for us to be able to have characters like Lee Gill playing Satyrus in this is focusing a lens in a different place to tell a story of someone who hasn't been represented on television. Queer people existed. We may not have seen as much of them in certain stories, but they
Hmm.
existed. So I believe this show is navigating all aspects of brutal Roman society to include more people. And that's the modern, fresh perspective, how we get to redefine and retell history.
Now you're playing a new character, but this is a long-standing franchise, has done a number of other series. Did you have to play catch up in order to understand that world, or did you just say, okay, this is a new series, I don't need to watch the before
No, I was a diehard fan of Spartacus. I've seen every episode. It's so funny because when Stephen Colvin told me about this audition, he was just like, okay, she's a black female gladiatrix. She's in the ludus. I'm like, don't tell me anymore. I know exactly the character. I'm like, which archetype is she like? Like, where are we doing? Like, where's Doctore? And so I am a super big nerded out fan of Spartacus and all things in this world. So to have the opportunity to play this character and bring something fresh and new into this new telling of this story it's phenomenal and it's a dream come true.
now, even though it's a franchise and it's got a base of an audience, you know, obviously there's an audience that's new that's looking to see something. There's always a competition to get an audience. What's going to get an audience to watch this if they have not watched any of the previous shows?
Well, I mean, the world of Spartacus in general already has concepts that people are going to be into. It's bloody, it's sexy, it's drama filled, and it's amazing character arcs that are told. So people will be on board for the story regardless because it's amazing and it's epic. But this new chapter, what we will see is new things defined like power, legacy, and finding that inner strength to defy expectations. So I believe that's a universal theme that a lot of people, no matter what, will be able to identify with because anyone who's ever felt like an outsider or an underdog and had to push past against the society to find their place and define themselves in a world that doesn't seem like that wants them will identify and feel like they can go on the journey with us in this show.
Well said. Congrats on the role. Congrats on the series. Don't die. Keep
Ah,
it going.
right?
I always say that when you're the one BP, they're gonna keep her alive.
Yeah,
But there's
right.
a couple of you guys out there. So stay alive. We'll talk next season.
All right. Thank you so much, Wilson. You have a
Take
good
care.
day.
Wilson Morales from Black Film TV. Hello, Jamie. How's it going?
I'm great. How are you?
Good. Obviously, you've been a fan of the show for a long time. So coming in here, obviously, how much of a Cornelia we're going to get from what people know of the character?
How much do I want people to know of the character?
How much are we going to get? Obviously, there's from what people already know of Cornelia, but what are we going
Oh,
to see on screen?
I think she's gonna do and say things that are beyond anybody's expectations.
So coming into this, obviously, people there are fans who have seen all of the shows, and then there are new people coming into it. How much of a fan were you from the get go? Had you seen all of it, or did you have to play catch up?
Oh no, I was a fan from the very beginning. So the fact that there was another iteration of this show was mind blowing to me, and then getting to be a part of it was just so much fun.
Most of the female characters on the show are pretty strong. Obviously, with Cornelia, we see her as somebody who has more money than Julius,
Hmm.
more influence than him.
Hmm.
So are we going to get to see that side of her as opposed to staying, just being the wife? Because we
Oh,
already know who Julius is.
yes, yes. You really see the woman behind the man, the woman who built the man.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And then coming into this, obviously, when you play a role like this, what did you want it to do? I always ask actors, what did you want it to do to the character outside of what the script called for?
Um, I really wanted to be very specific with her physicality. I feel like the way she's written, she uses her body, her sexuality as a source of power and as a weapon, really. And so I was very intent on bringing very specific physicality to this role.
As an actor, what part of your skill set was improved, or something you didn't do before that you got to do when you're working on a series?
Oh, that's a great question. I mean, I've never done a period piece like this before, so capturing the tone of a different era was a great challenge. Um, but I think, I've also never played somebody of this status. So again, finding that kind of regal bearing and that elitist, mindset, was a really fun challenge too.
Is there anything you got from not just the directors, but from the creators and the cast that helps you out as an actor?
Uh, I mean, yeah, everybody was really helpful. I just, when you're working with somebody who's very present in the scene and very giving, the scenes start to take its own kind of organic shape and things happen that you both weren't expecting. And so you always grow and learn from those moments where you're like, oh, I can feel this in this way, or I can tap into this from this angle, or so it's all really informative.
Hmm. As a fan, as you mentioned earlier, you've seen all of the other shows and so forth. What is the lore that keeps bringing this franchise back? It never dies. And then with this whole what if theory, it's a great because I go, hey, listen, if it takes off, I'm sure other EPs are gonna be like, what if we brought back Game of Thrones or all these other
Ah,
shows? They're like, what if they didn't die? What I'm saying? What
yeah.
is the lore of Spartacus that keeps coming back?
I think it's a show that's unapologetic. I think, it takes place in this brutal time period, and you know, uh it's a show that honors that, stays true to that, to the violence and the sex and the drama and the intrigue, and I think it's gives people a great escape. It's great entertainment.
Congrats on the series. Congrats on the road. We'll talk down the road. Have a good one.
Thank you so much.
Wilson Morales from Black Film TV. Hello, Graham. How's it going?
Good. How are you? Nice to meet you.
Hey, you're like the king of period pieces. It's a period piece. Paul
Put him
Graham.
in it.
He's ready to
Get him in.
go. Get him a new wig. Get him a new.
Yeah, that's right. Put a
Get
different
him.
sword in his hand.
Get him
Yeah.
in the gym. Because you look a little buff. I was like, is that Graham or is that CGI?
You're very kind.
So what led you to take her on this position?
What made me take it on?
Yeah, what led you to say yes to take her on this role?
Oh gosh, several things. I love Stephen's writing. I love the way I love this sort of semi-Shakespearean cadence that he gives to the language in the show. I was a huge fan of the original, and also I'm a big history buff, and ancient Rome almost, well, yeah, particularly I love. I love ancient Rome. I When I did Outlander, people used to ask me if you could travel back in time, where would you go? And it was always Rome. I would just for a day. I wouldn't want to go for more than a day. I think that would be fine. I don't even think I'd necessarily stay for dinner. I'd just make my excuses and leave. But just to be in Rome for a day would be absolutely amazing because I think, and hopefully this is something that comes across in the show as well, is that we're closer to those people than we think.
Mm.
Um, I think we all have a Roman living within us, and that the things that motivated them, their desires, their fears, all of the things that you see in the show are completely relatable to a modern audience.
What
They just
motiv
happen to wear different clothes and carry different weapons. That's
what
it.
motivates your character? Is it loyalty? Is it power? Like, why does he stay?
Loyalty, yes. I think somebody with the background of Chorus, essentially a slave who won his freedom in the arena, uh, he is going to have a very particular view of the hierarchy around him and and has ambitions to prove to these people that he is their equal, if not their better. And so that's something that motivates him. And also, for me as an actor, the chance to actually show emotional tenderness was really important. You don't see it really in the first couple of episodes, but certainly as the show progresses, that tough, hard exterior starts to soften towards certain characters, and he reveals layers to himself, which from a performance point of view is really satisfying.
Now, you've been working throughout the last few years, and I always say you probably don't have a lot of time, but did you have time to play catch up with the previous shows of Spartacus to get an
Oh, I've
idea?
seen them all, yeah. Oh no, I was a huge fan of them. I saw them when they all came out. Yeah, I loved it. It was so revolutionary,
Mhm.
that show. I think it really changed the face of, TV in terms of how this sort of things are portrayed. Very, 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 very enjoyable. And this just takes it really to a whole other level. I mean, the technology that we're able to employ now, apart from anything, just allows us so much more freedom. And with the stunt team that we had under Al Poppleton, absolutely amazing. What they can do, you watch it. If you didn't see it with your own eyes, you wouldn't be able to believe some of the things that they do. Incredible, absolutely
Hmm.
incredible.
Want to say congrats on the role. Obviously, the man that always keeps a job.
That's right.
you know, Stars loves you, but at the end of the day, listen, what do you think is going to bring audiences to watch that? Obviously, it already has a fan base from previous shows, but
Yeah.
for somebody new who doesn't have time to catch up, even though it's new characters with the exception of one, what's going to bring in the audience to see this?
Well, I think it's the sort of epic operatic scale of it, really. I
Mhm.
mean, once you immerse yourself in it, once you start that first episode, you're in this extraordinary world that is so vivid and real, that the audience are gonna want to see more and more and more of it. And as they get to know the characters, especially a character like Asher, who's such an interesting take on the idea of a hero, how he can be a hero, a man who is a manipulator, who's very cunning, he's very deceptive, and yet we root for him. And I think that's such an interesting thing for audiences to discover. Those kind of anti-heroes, I suppose they're called. And I'm along for the ride.
Hey, don't die. We're here to see you week after week. Keep it
Yeah,
going.
thanks.
You're the one name that we know of. Like they ain't killing him off. He's a vet. You're saying he
Thank
got
you.
he got that
Thank
vet
you.
contract. We'll talk
Oh,
down the
God.
road. Take care, sir.
All right, you too.
Wilson Morales from Black from TV. Hello, folks. How's it going?
Hello.
Hi, Wilson. Hi.
Hey. So coming into this, let's not lie. How many of the series did you watch, or did you have to play catch up getting into the series? Claudia?
Okay. I was going to throw to India. I knew a little bit. It was sort of on my radar, and when the show originally happened, I was given the opportunity to audition. Given what was happening in my personal life at the time, it just would not have been feasible. And also, I personally wasn't ready to meet the rigors of what is required of the performers with regard to the intimacy scenes. And now the world has changed and the industry's changed, and we have these amazing intimacy coordinators. So I felt like it was something that I could meet and be taken care of.
India?
I was such a huge fan of the original show. So when I heard that there was going to be a new iteration and that I had the chance to audition for it, I just jumped at it because it's a world that I know well and really, really love.
Mhm. Now these are new characters, so what are we getting? Without any spoilers between obviously mother and daughter. Mom has a lot more to do in this show in terms of like what she's plotting and so forth. Claudia,
Sorry, what's the question?
what are we expecting from your character?
Oh, so I mean, what I love is that really each of these characters could go anywhere because of the roots that Stephen has put down for all of us, and they really are affected by the circumstances in which they find themselves each episode in the story. And so I think Kasutia, what I like to see in her is the real humanity in the relationship with Viridia, because at first we find them and they're contentious, and it's sort of like the old guard and the new guard, and how are we going to sort of figure out how to navigate what is absolutely necessary for Viridia now, which is to be wed before she ages out, because we see what happens to Kasutia. Her husband's older, he's a senator, she's got limited power, but she has more now until her husband dies. So she's in this sort of liminal space where she has to sort of make some decisions for the two of them so that they can survive.
Mm-hmm. What about you, India? Is your character more of a character of defiance?
Well, without giving too much away, certainly when we first meet her, she's in a period of deep mourning for her husband that was killed prior to the start of the show. Her husband was killed by Spartacus and his rebels, so we see her at sort of her lowest point, and certainly I think her journey throughout the season is an incredible one to watch because we see her step into her power and bloom essentially. But she knows now, being a young unmarried woman, there will be certain expectations of her, and that there will be a duty and certain things required of her, certainly with forming a new match. But I think being a very smart and forward-thinking young woman, she meets people along the way that completely challenge her sense of identity and her place within this world and this structure. And I think we certainly, audiences, I think, can really enjoy seeing her step into her power and make decisions about, who she wants to be in this world
Mhm.
and what it means to be a woman in ancient Rome.
That's the beauty about this show is that, the women are strong in the series. Some of them are in terms of, the way the writing is and the way the performances are. Do you take stock into the characters you're playing in terms of like what the woman went through it during that time to know that, heck yeah, you're playing it right as opposed to like, this is only on the page? Claudia?
Yeah, I mean, there was this moment in an episode towards in the last five where the director gave me space to block with the beautiful Andrew McFarlane who plays Gabinius. And this choice organically came in because we were graced with the space to make these choices. And I suddenly thought, oh my gosh, this is it right here. The fact that the way the women behave, what's expected of them, where they sit. It's like a dinner party where everything's been prearranged. These women's lives have been so foretold by the structure of the society they're in. And there was this really amazing moment for me. I've got chills remembering it now, where I thought, oh my God, this feels like kind of like the moon landing. This feels like such a huge thing for my character, but would seem so insignificant to someone else from our time, perhaps. And the choice that Kasutia makes in that moment. And it was literally about what chair she sat in. So,
Mhm.
I mean, it was always very potent for me thinking about the limitations of women in that time and who they're trying to be and how they can find agency.
Congrats on your roles. This is the franchise that never dies. There's always an audience coming back to it, no matter what time period it is. They'll figure it out. If we have to reimagine over and over, keep doing so. It gives people jobs. So
Art is iteration.
keep it going. We'll talk hopefully season two. Take care,
Yes.
folks.
Amen. Thank you.
Thanks
Bye.
so much, Wilson.